Ladies and gentlemen, that is the first time in my life I've only had to say good evening, ladies and gentlemen, one time. You are an amazingly orderly audience so far, so thank you. Things may get rowdier as the night continues, but we begin well. Good evening and welcome to the 160th anniversary celebration of the Union League of Philadelphia. Tonight promises to be a very special night, an evening filled with art and music, poetry and history. Portraits painted in oil on canvas and portraits painted in music and the spoken word. And at the close of the evening, the opportunity to participate in the ceremony, both solemn and stirring, as each member here will be invited to step forth and put their hands to the Articles of Association, the same articles signed by the 25 founding members of the Union League 160 years ago tonight. An opportunity not just to remember, but to rededicate, not just to recall, but to recommit ourselves to the high ideals and principles for which they so bravely stood at a time when our country was so badly sundered. It promises to be an extraordinary evening indeed. So I invite you to tuck in your napkins, buckle your seatbelts, and get ready for a great night. To start things off, as we always do, we will reaffirm our patriotic principles. I'll ask you to stand and join us in the national anthem, accompanied by the Philadelphia Youth Orchestra, led by Maestro Luis Scaglione. Maestro? The Pledge of Allegiance that we say so regularly here at the Union League and so rarely in America anymore reminds us that we are one nation under God. I'd like to call now to the stage Mr. Joseph Del Razzo, a member of the 160th Anniversary Committee, to remind us that we are in the presence of a greater power. Joe?
Well, they're the saints and the sinners. So I'm honored this evening to be able to offer this invocation. Lord, we thank you for bringing us together today. We gather in this beautiful historic house to remember the founding of this great association of patriots. Patriots who pledged their support to the American experiment in self-government, an experiment created to defend those inalienable rights that you endowed upon us. We thank you for this gift, a great liberty document, the Constitution. We, as members, pledge to support. May we enjoy your continued blessings on our nation and our Union League, and let us never forget those who, like Lincoln, gave the last full measure to defend these blessings. Lord, grant peace to those who are fighting tyranny around the world and who seek the blessings of liberty that we enjoy. Let us remember those who are less fortunate, especially the sick and those who mourn. Bless the food that you place before us, and those who are providing it to us. We ask this in thy holy name. Amen.
Another staple of formal Union League events, of which this is definitely one, is our three traditional toasts. Let me ask Thomas Pappas, the 60th president of the Union League, to give us the first of the traditional toasts. Tom Lynch, the 62nd president of the Union League, will give us the second of the traditional toasts.
Please charge your glasses. To the Union League of Philadelphia.
Finally, I will call upon Frank Giordano, who is the eternal president of the Union League, to give the third toast.
Ladies and gentlemen, charge your glasses to the 73rd president of the Union League, Harry Hill.
And now it's time for the first of the portraits that we will unveil and you will enjoy tonight, the Lincoln portrait. The Union League has many great assets and resources, our amenities, our wonderful staff. One of the most gratifying things about being a member of the Union League is that no matter what is needed, no matter what field of human endeavor, the arts, science, medicine, law, business, the very finest in their field are members of the Union League. And they are incredibly generous in donating their time and talents to enrich our experience, to strengthen our Union League. We're fortunate tonight to have two such members with us. They're great patriots, great leaders who epitomize our motto, love of country leads. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Alan Guelzo and Maestro Luis Gaglione and the Philadelphia Youth Orchestra, who will perform Lincoln Portrait.
I have been asked to say a few words in introduction of Aaron Copland's Lincoln Portrait. 81 years ago, the United States was plunged into the fires of the Second World War, and every fiber of American society was called into service, including musicians. I want people to get the message of what democracy is, what we are fighting for, said the popular orchestral conductor André Kostelanetz in an interview in Time magazine. To communicate that message musically, Kostelanetz commissioned 3 American composers to write new works to represent a musical portrait gallery of great Americans, including Walt Whitman and Abraham Lincoln. The invitation to write about Lincoln went to Aaron Copland, who had made his mark as the composer of a fabulously successful ballet around an American folk hero, Billy the Kid, in 1938. Copland went to work swiftly, and his Lincoln Portrait was ready for its premiere by the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra on May 14th, 1942. It has the unusual feature, but one common to many of André Kostelanet's commissions, of a narrator reading brief excerpts from Lincoln's speeches and writings. But the narrator in Lincoln Portrait is not heard until the halfway point of Lincoln Portrait's 13-minute length. In the first half, Copland creates a musical evocation of Lincoln's America, beginning with the spare sounds of trumpet, flute, and harp, summoning up the stillness and openness of the prairies, and the tragic loneliness of Lincoln himself. The music then yields to the nobility of Lincoln's character, found through the folk song on Springfield Mountain. And then to the energy and fury of Lincoln's time, with snatches of Camptown races, and the tumult of the Civil War, with fanfares from brass and percussion. Finally, the narrator joins the orchestra to speak Lincoln's words, taken from Lincoln's 1862 message to Congress, from the Lincoln-Douglas debates of 1858, and finally, the Gettysburg Address, bringing the whole work to a thunderous conclusion. Lincoln Portrait was an instant critical success, and Kostelanetz performed it in July 1942 at the Lincoln Memorial with Carl Sandburg as the narrator. It remains one of Copeland's most popular works, with a roster of star narrators that has included Marian Anderson, James Earl Jones, and even Julius Erving. Tonight, it is, as Lincoln said, altogether fitting and proper that Lincoln Portrait should be heard here at the 160th anniversary of the founding of the Union League of Philadelphia, beneath the greatest portrait of Abraham Lincoln ever painted. Let Lincoln's words animate us to a renewed dedication to government of the people, by the people, for the people. Fellow citizens, we cannot escape history. That is what he said. That is what Abraham Lincoln said. Fellow citizens, we cannot escape history. We of this Congress and this administration will be remembered in spite of ourselves. No personal significance or insignificance can spare one or another of us. The fiery trial through which we pass will light us down in honor or dishonor to the latest generation. We, even we here, hold the power and bear the responsibility. He was born in Kentucky, raised in Indiana, and lived in Illinois. And this is what he said. This is what Abe Lincoln said. The dogmas of a quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise with the occasion. As our case is new, so we must think anew and act anew. We must disenthrall ourselves, and then we shall save our country. When standing erect, he was 6 feet 4 inches tall. And this is what he said. He said, "It is the eternal struggle between two principles, right and wrong, throughout the world. It is the same spirit that says, you toil and work and earn bread, and I'll eat it, no matter in what shape it comes. Whether from the mouth of a king who seeks to bestride the people of his own nation and live by the fruit of their labor, or from one race of men as an apology for enslaving another race, it is the same tyrannical principle." Lincoln was a quiet man. Abe Lincoln was a quiet and a melancholy man. But when he spoke of democracy, this is what he said. He said, "As I would not be a slave, so I would not be a master. This expresses my idea of democracy. Whatever differs from this, to the extent of the difference, is no democracy." Abraham Lincoln, 16th President of these United States, is everlasting in the memory of his country. For on the battleground at Gettysburg, this is what he said. He said that from these honored dead, we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, and that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
Thank you, Alan, Maestro, and all the marvelous members of the Philadelphia Youth Orchestra. The words spoken by Lincoln remind us of the values and principles behind the founding of our Union League. Those are the words that inspired a small but influential group of Philadelphians to band together in the darkest days of the Civil War to support Lincoln and his policies, despite the vicious, bitter, and occasionally violent opposition of their fellow Philadelphians in what was then known as the most southern town in the North. They are the words that inspire us today. The motto of those founders was "Love of Country Leads," and they believed that their job was not just to love their country, but to work to make this indeed a more perfect union. Today, 160 years later, our motto hasn't changed, nor has the mission. These days, that mission is primarily carried out by the Union League Legacy Foundation. The foundation is dedicated to the same principles which are summarized in the first line of our bylaws, which require that every member of the Union League support the Constitution and the free enterprise system. The second portrait that we present to you tonight was imagined, funded, and created by the Union League Legacy Foundation. Although it is more tangible than the first portrait we just enjoyed, I think you will find it no less beautiful, no less monumental, no less memorable. To introduce that portrait is Mr. Jim Dungan, the chair of the Legacy Foundation and our 70th president.
Good evening, everyone. First off, I think it's important I lower your expectations because I'm not going to top what we just experienced. That was awesome. Another round of applause. And you, like I, probably remain in awe of what our founders set out to accomplish 160 years ago, what we inherited and what we dedicate ourselves to continue to preserve. So it's an honor to be with you all tonight as we unveil this latest work in the Union League Legacies Foundation's collection, a painting of Lucretia Mott. The Legacy Foundation is the steward of the collections of the League, which include our archival, book, object, and art collection. These collections and the history and values of the League are the basis for the educational programs that inspire members students, our fellow citizens to become better informed and more engaged citizen leaders. As a nonprofit charity of the League, we are governed by a group of dedicated and generous leaders. Their work and generosity make possible nearly $2 million in grants for scholarships and historic preservation this past year, and presented programs that reach tens of thousands each year. Day to day, the work of the foundation is carried out by a dedicated staff led by our executive director, John Miko. So please join me in thanking John for his service and leadership. John Wright. Well deserved. Thank you, John. The collections in our care are an important means to tell the story of the League. A walk through our hallways is a history lesson, a lesson about who we are, what we did, and what we believe. The League began to use art to tell its story with this painting behind me of Lincoln by Edward Marchand, commissioned by the League just days after our founding on July 1st, 1863. It shows Lincoln moments after signing the Emancipation Proclamation. The newest painting in our collection, the one we will unveil in a few moments, expands on this story. It is a painting of Lucretia Mott. Mott was one of the most important leaders of two great civil rights movements of the 19th century, abolition and women's rights. She was a founding member of the American Anti-Slavery Society, and in 1848, she was the main speaker at the Women's Rights Convention in Seneca Falls, New York. She became one of the most famous women in antebellum America. And when the Civil War began in 1861, Mott focused her efforts on emancipation. Mott's connection to the League is significant. In 1863, the Union League led the effort to establish the first military training camp for the United States colored troops, named Camp William Penn. It was located on the property of James and Lucretia Mott and their son-in-law, Edward David. At a recruiting rally for the camp on July 6, 1863, the featured speakers included League members Congressman Pig Iron Kelly and Benjamin Brewster, along with Frederick Douglass and Lucretia Mott. The camp opened later in July and became not just the first, but the largest such camp during the Civil War, training 11,000 men. The Legacy Foundation's Collection Committee leads the efforts on new commissions. The committee chose artist Joshua LaRock, and a committee worked with LaRock and our collection staff, Jim Mundy and Keely Tullio, on composition, color, and other factors to determine and create the work you are about to receive. From beginning to end, the process took over a year. This project, the work of the Legacy Foundation, is possible through voluntary contributions from members and others. My thanks to all who support our work, and especially those who gave so generously to make this project a reality. Now I'd like to invite artist Joshua LaRock, Collections Committee Chair John Serlin, Jim Mundy, and Subcommittee Member Reggie Brown to join me in unveiling the painting.
Thank you, Josh, for this newest memorable addition to our collection. Over the last 2 years, as you know, we have tried as the Union League to go back and recognize people who were part of the great fight, who were friends of the Union League in those days, who for one reason or another did not get included in the pantheon of great patriots who graced all halls. Last year was Frederick Douglass. This year is Lucretia Mott, and I have no doubt that this will be as admired, revered, and as often viewed as the Frederick Douglass portrait has been over the last year. Thank you, Josh, for this great addition. If you let me, at this point in the holidays, and parenthetically, thank you all for the physical courage you showed in putting on evening dress and ball gowns at this point in the year, and strapping the silhouette one more time after all these. But at this point in the year, you may have a little tryptophan bouncing around in your system from all that Christmas turkey, maybe the ghost of eggnog past. Here to blow those Christmas cobwebs out of your brain with my very favorite patriotic song of all, The Stars and Stripes Forever, is Maestro Louis Scaglione and the Philadelphia Youth Orchestra. All right, we had music lesson, we had poetry, English lit, we had art, we had history. That was gym class just there, just happened. So now we're actually gonna have lunch and let you eat, so please enjoy your dinner. I knew it was going to be harder the second time. Good evening, once again, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to continue and conclude with our program, and I hope that so far you haven't found that I oversold the evening at the beginning by telling you that you were in for an extraordinary experience. At this point, it's only meet and fitting that we say thank you and recognize all the people who made this event as special as it is. First and foremost, to our Chief Executive Officer, Jeff McFadden. He is the Walt Disney of the private club industry, and he is, well, it's true. Other people give you a ride. Walt Disney builds you a world. Jeff McFadden is the Walt Disney of the private club industry. I'm also very happy to recognize Abby Canick, the head of our activities committee. Abby came into some very large shoes. When Lucy Myers retired, Abby did inherit some very large shoes, and she has filled them so well and so quickly that I'm proud to tell you she has developed bilateral bunionettes on both feet. But she still gets around pretty well. And not just those leaders, but also everyone who is behind this evening. And there are many, many people behind this evening. The entire Legacy Foundation staff, food service, banquets, AV, Bokar, Mark, Marvin, Hayford, Christina, Nicholas, Chris, Michelle. We know you're all here. We see you every time we come out here. And we understand that you sacrifice your evening with your family so that we can experience these fabulous evenings here at the Union League. Your services never goes unnoticed, and it is never taken for granted. Thank you for what you do. And now, as MC, often you find yourself, and now my friend, here at the Union League, they really are your friends. It's my privilege now to introduce my friend, Robert Cavalier, a man who has given so much and so diverse service to the Union League. Vice President of the Union League, a member of the Legacy Foundation Board of Trustees, and the person who turned the 160th anniversary, which could have been a blip, it could have been just one of those other denominal anniversaries, into something very special. Robert?
Thank you. Thanks, Craig. It was really a true honor and a privilege this year to serve as the chair of the 160th anniversary committee. And it was so much fun. When Craig first came to me and said, I want you to chair the 160th, and I've shared with you, a lot of you this evening, said, 160, all right. It's not 175, it's not 150, but okay, let's give it a shot. And we put together this terrific committee, and we started meeting about 13 or 14 months ago, and we would meet every 2 weeks and just kind of spitballing ideas and trying to come up with things. But we had an outstanding committee, and we established a goal to meaningfully engage our members, give them value, have our core values expressed in different ways throughout the year. A variety of things. As President Mills said to me, not just a party, Bob. We had lectures, we had fun stuff going on, we had memorabilia and gear. So we did a lot of different things. So how are we gonna execute this goal? So we decided we're gonna take a lot of existing things that are already in place, and for that I thank Tim Gillespie for sharing with us so many different activities events and Legacy Foundation events. And we kind of hijacked a few of the things that Tim was already doing so well and rebranded them, but that was really great. And the Legacy Foundation with John Miko with the lectures, how we rebranded some of them. And you know, we we wanted to really make people proud to be members. And, you know, as the year went on and the enthusiasm that took place with the members and with the staff, I mean, it was like 160 everywhere. It was on your bill, it was on the golf carts. It was as soon as you walk in the lobby, when you park your car, everyone has the pin on. And I remember Patty Tobin, who was such a champion of this anniversary, she ordered 4,000 pins. And I bet we have a handful or two left at this point. But it was great. So with the events that we did, if people will remember, in here we kicked it off with the presidential dinner, and we honored Ronald Reagan, which was a spectacular evening. We had Don Luongo, who was present that evening, that day when Reagan was shot by Hinckley and gave a blow by blow and shot by shot. It was riveting and captivated the room. And from there, our next event with the Legacy Foundation, we had a lecture here to honor General Grant on his 200th birthday. And then we want to weave in the companion amenity properties. And the very next day, we had the inaugural Grant Ball at Liberty Hill, which was a spectacular event. So many attended that, black tie, candlelight, I believe, also. You know, from there, we wanted to continue with the other properties. Torresdale had their Run for the Roses. Then we had Un Blanc down at National. And in the fall, we had our terrific fall ball. And so many of you were here. We changed the format, and it was 160 branded. If you were on the Broad Street steps, and I saw a lot of people coming in to get their picture taken, it said 160. The entire city of Philadelphia knew that the Union League was celebrating its 160th anniversary that day. And you know, throughout the year, we also had the opportunity to properly recognize Will and Joan Abel with a Crystal Award. And then perhaps one of the most significant events that we did, or initiatives we did, was the 160 Acts of Patriotism campaign. And you know, that was really so embraced by the members. And really what we did with that was, you know, we all know that everyone in this room and our membership as a whole and our staff do things all the time of a patriotic nature, but we really wanted to shine a spotlight on it and bring it to everyone's attention. And that took on a life of its own, that 160 Acts of Patriotism. We created a legacy with that. And I remember President Mills penned an article in the Banner. He said that with this campaign, we are showing our founding fathers that we walk the walk. And it was really terrific. Our committee decided that for the 160 Acts of Patriotism, and Peter Madden suggested, and if he's going to talk about branding, you better listen to him. He said that 160 Act really needs to be a special one, the final one. And I'm happy to report, and some of you already know, that the 160th Act is our committee gifting a time capsule, which is going to go on the rooftop of the new restaurant. And there is a campaign underway right now, similar when you submitted a nice message for Will and Joan Abel with the Crystal Award, that you can submit a message, and you're encouraged to submit a message to be included in the time capsule. And our members are being asked to say to the members in 40 years when it's opened up, what it means to be a Union League member today, and also what is it that you wish for the Union League members in the 200th anniversary 40 years from now. So think about submitting a message there, but really a fun thing that we're doing with the time capsule. So, you know, that's part of our legacy. And one thing we had a special surprise tonight. I didn't bring this up here just to show you the banner, the logo. This is the logo that I did not select, so I was happy. I was smart enough to realize, I think, that leave it up to the committee to pick the logo. But one final tribute from our committee that we're leaving with you this evening is when you're leaving tonight and if you're driving west of the city, look at the Pico Crown lights, and up there we have a message, and we can play that now, please. That's been playing all day, all night. We are super proud of that, and we're putting it out there, letting everyone know we're celebrating patriotism, and that's a really special final piece for us. So before I get to introduce the book, which we're going to hear about, I wanted to take a second to acknowledge our committee, and all their names are on your program. And if the committee could all stand, and I know we're a little bit cramped for time, and those candles are burning down pretty quickly, and I wasn't going to introduce everybody, but I have to introduce everybody because they did work so hard this year. So if the committee would please stand, and I'll call out their names. I'd like to recognize the vice chairs, Jenna Pileckia and Chris Topoleski. You hold your applause till the end, please. Also on the committee, my wife, Darlene Cavalier, Joe Del Rosso, Danielle Dombrowski, Pete Madden, Ed Plachter, Bob Raymond, and Louis Scaglione. Thank you all for what you've done this year. And I know she's already been thanked once, but I have to thank Abby Kanak again, because Abby was outstanding. And what a cheerleader for this program that we had. Our committee had enthusiastic support all the time, and that was Abby. I also want to acknowledge Erica Martin and her team, what they did throughout the year with all the branding, all the logos. Olivia Chow, what she did with all the merchandise. I think there's still new 160 things coming out as of last week. John Miko, Jim Mundy, Kira Foley-Tusman, everyone in the Legacy Foundation, everyone in activities, really, really spectacular support. Everyone tonight has said, great job, great job. And it's a great job because of all of you and because of all the support we had throughout the year. Okay, now to the book. Before I introduce Jenna, I want to acknowledge the significant contribution of our league member, Paul Snitzer. Paul wrote the essay that is in the book. And Paul also spent the time to interview all of the past presidents who served over the last 10 years and really set that book in the right direction. And then Jenna came in, and Jenna, if you would please come on up here. Jenna really let everyone know, and this committee, she brought some cohesion to it. We had a lot of different inputs going on, and folks, we don't really have a lot of experience making books, but this really came together as one unified work, and we are so proud of the book, and I know many of you I think all of you are gonna take it home with you tonight, so thank you for that. But Jenna, if you could tell us a little bit more about the book, and thank you for all you did with that.
Well, thank you, Bob, and thank you most importantly for your leadership on the 160th Committee. Bob was a driving force behind the book when many were skeptical that something could be produced in such a short time frame. Thank you also to the Union League and Legacy Foundation staff who took time from their already very busy schedules to build this anthology of the past decade. And last but not least, to reinforce what Bob had said, thank you to Paul Schnitzer, who provided us with such thoughtful content. When we first started brainstorming the book back in March, it was noted that the Union League published a book for the 150th anniversary. So the question arose, why do we need another one now? I was eager to answer that question. I was elected to membership at the Union League in October of 2010, so my tenure as a member is only slightly longer than this exceptional decade. In my time as a member, and especially over the past 10 years, I've seen the League grow and adapt to an ever-changing society. We went from 1 property to 6, golf was added, access to fine dining was increased, thought leaders from throughout the country came to speak, art was commissioned and artifacts were preserved, and countless acts of charity were performed. So, was this enough for a new book? Maybe not. But that was not all. Throughout this time frame, the League saw a recommitment to our founding values. Love of country leads. As our geographic footprint increased, the membership became more unified. Just as the founding members in 1862 intended, the Union League stands today as a patriotic civic institution as well as a social organization. So that is the answer to the question. And that is why it was important to draft this book, to memorialize what the Union League has achieved and is achieving, and to celebrate the community that the Union League has built. In the book, you'll find a mix of historical essays that describe how and why the Union League was founded, an overview of all the great events over the past 10 years, both educational and social, and a description of each property acquired. And woven throughout, how with each new amenity and event, love of country leads is embodied. So please pick up or pre-order a book. I promise as you read through it, you'll be surprised to recall just how much has occurred in the past 10 years, and happy to be reminded that it was made possible by all of you, the League's amazing membership. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenna. The book is the last piece in our legacy that we're leaving, and I'm so proud of the committee. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that I want to thank my wife, Darlene Cavalier, for all of her support and also all of her really brilliance in this. If it was up to me, our legacy probably would be, and there's nothing wrong with this, but an outstanding box of cigars and some fantastic 160-year-old whiskey that we had, or 160th anniversary. But thanks to the committee, and enjoy the rest of the program.
Thank you, Bob, on a job very well done. And for those of you who may have had the misfortune of appearing before Jenna in her role as head of the House Rules Committee, I'm sure you're happy to see her in a much more congenial role tonight. None of you will probably be receiving a letter, but it's early in the evening yet. It's now my privilege to introduce my successor as president. And when you're president of the Union League, your great hope as fiduciary is that they'll elect someone to take over for you who is better than you. And then they do that, and it stinks. It really stinks. So I'm now proud to introduce the 73rd president of the Union League, and a better man, Mr. Harry E. Hill III.
Thank you, and I'm going to make my remarks very brief, but I do wish to thank those who have made all this incredible evening possible. First, I'd like to thank you, Craig D. Mills, our 72nd president, for your leadership. I think it is worth noting how truly remarkable your term has been as president. You accepted your role in the middle of a pandemic. You navigated arbitrary and changing COVID mandates with skill and patience. All this when so many city clubs were closing for good. You made sure we not only survived, but we thrived. Craig, it has been my honor to serve with you on the board of directors. On behalf of the membership of the League, I thank you for your dedication and leadership. As you know, tonight is the final and I think the most spectacular of a year of celebrations, programs, individual and group acts of patriotism. The 160th committee was the driving force for these events and for the creation of the wonderful book you just heard about. The hard work, dedication, creativity, energy that the committee brought to this effort is simply extraordinary. Their work has been a great gift to our membership and a gift that will continue giving for generations. On behalf of the members of the Union League, I thank the committee. Now, the person who led this group deserves special thanks. It's because of his leadership that all this has happened. He has served the League for many years on many committees, including entertainment, activities, admissions, and as a member of the Legacy Foundation Board of Trustees. He was Vice President for Activities in 2020, when much of the country and our great city was shut down. But the League's activities did not stop. He saw to it that our members remained engaged and that with their League and with each other. His creativity and hard work helped keep our League community together. One of the great privileges of being president of the Union League is from time to time, I get to confer an honor on those who have served the League in our community or nation. This honor is the President's Award. It is given to those within our community who have served our associations in such an exemplary way. Therefore, as an expression of my thanks, and on behalf of the members of the Union League, it is my great honor as one of my very first duties as president of the League to present the President's Award to Mr. Robert M. Cavalier. Bob, will you come forward? Thank you, and Bob, thank you for an extraordinary job well done. And thank you all. Good evening.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the historic part of the evening, the part that in the beginning I told you would be both solemn and stirring, and I hope you find it to be so. 160 years ago, this very night, our city and country were divided. In November of 1862, in the midst of this division, and during some of the darkest hours of the Civil War, where the North had suffered a series of stunning and humiliating defeats in the battlefield, when it seemed almost certain that Lincoln would have to sue for peace, that America would be permanently torn in half, that the evil of slavery would continue, a small group of influential Philadelphians came together to say that this should not be so. At first, their purpose was modest. They wished to merely set themselves aside from the unfortunate mass of Philadelphians who were very much in favor of slavery and secession for the free cotton that it meant for the textile manufacturers in Philadelphia. They called their association the Union Club of Philadelphia. On December 27th, 1862, 160 years ago tonight, the club met for the 7th time. It was this meeting that the group decided to create a new organization, one with a much bigger, much more aggressive, much more tangible purpose. This new organization was the Union League of Philadelphia. They drafted new articles by which this organization would be guided. The articles that they signed that evening called the members to, and I quote, "rebuke all disloyalty to the federal government, and to that end use every proper means in public and in private." And the condition of membership was, again, I quote, "unqualified loyalty to the government of the United States and unwavering support of its effort for the suppression of the rebellion." This organization, the Union League of Philadelphia, would become a turning point. It was the first of its kind in the nation. By the end of the war, there were over 220 Union Leagues in every major town and city in the North, the first and greatest of which was the Union League of Philadelphia, fighting for the end of slavery, for the preservation of the Union, for the unity and the strength of this nation. 160 years later, that mission hasn't changed. We are still a nation divided, not at war with arms and in blood, but at war culturally and ideologically for the soul of the nation. It's a war in which there is, some would say, right and wrong. It is a war in which we know where we stand, just as we stood 160 years ago this night. Tonight, you have the opportunity to reaffirm the values and principles for which they so bravely stood by putting your hand to the Articles of Association on the desk owned by George Boker, the first secretary of the Union League and the writer of the initial Articles of Association. They're on the table to my right. It's now my pleasure to introduce Robert Raymond,
as a member of 160th Committee for a benediction, after which I will invite every member of the Union League who is here tonight to step forward and sign the Articles of Incorporation. And since that's Boker's desk, if you've got a big old glass of Cabernet, you may want to leave that behind when you come up. That's all I'm saying. Mr. Raymond?
Well, they say save the best for last, but I got sandwiched between Mr. Mills, and I promise Maestro Scaglione will be up here momentarily. Before then, friends, I invite you to bow your heads and accept these words of peace. Almighty Lord, we're blessed to be together in this time of prosperity, celebrating 160 years of service as the Union League. Humbly we ask for your continued favor as we strive to bring peace, stability, and unity to our great country. May every man, woman, and child be endowed with your wisdom. Save us from violence and discord. Deny us pride and arrogance. Grant us everlasting peace at home and abroad. In your name, we embrace the future and usher in the next chapter in our history. Amen.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, before we sign the articles, we end our evening as we began, with a musical tribute to our patriotism. And as I said before, whatever you need in the world, the best is found at the Union League. So I'll invite Maestro Louis Scaglione to lead us in God Bless America. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. God bless the United States, and God bless the Union League of Philadelphia.